Welcome to Cash Talk, the podcast where we delve into the depths of finance, business, and life itself. I'm your host, John Cachia, a multi-award-winning wealth advisor with a passion for empowering ambitious Australians to confidently achieve financial freedom. Hey everyone, before we get started, this is a quick reminder that everything in this podcast is of a general nature and nothing has been tailored to your personal circumstances. So please seek personal financial advice before acting on this information. Welcome back to Cash Talk, and today I'm joined by a special guest, a friend of mine for a long, long time, Nat. How are you?
Good, John. How are you? Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Yeah, it's been a few years that I've been thinking about getting you on the podcast. I didn't share this before you came on, but you've got some really good things that I think you need to bring to Cash Talk that we haven't spoken about before. Awesome. And so just for everyone to know, Nat is in the recruitment space. She does have a couple of businesses. I'll let her share a little bit about what she does before we get in, but you'll see why I want to kind of bring her on and hopefully give you some great insights onto this podcast. So Nat, a little bit about what you do and what you have been doing. Absolutely.
Thanks, John. So I have been working in the recruitment and HR space for a good part of 16 years. I'm showing my age now. So over the years, I've worked across a number of different industries. In my own business, which I started 4 years ago now, VCJ Recruitment, I specialise in allied health and disability services. I do jump into other areas when, the need is there, but I try not to bite off more than I can chew. Mm-hmm. Stay a lane that I'm good in, that I'm passionate about, that I feel like I can make a difference in. And a big part of, allied health and disability is quite general. A big part of what I do is work with businesses that are really finding it hard in the OT, speech, psychology and behaviour support area. Mm. What happened, John, especially after COVID, like most industries, there was a real shortage in the market of allied health clinicians. It's starting to pick up a bit now. There are some states that are harder than others to recruit in. Mm. It's always going to be like that. But, so I've really kind of built my business through that, and it's really been beautiful to especially bring in some new grads and watch them grow and further their careers. But, love what I do.
And it's been really good, obviously observing yourself and kind of growing into your own business as well, because before your business, you were working in different industries, if I remember right.
Yeah. So I worked in, so let's go way back. Yeah. My very, very first recruitment job was labour hire. Yeah, and you know what? This is where I grew some balls. Mm-hmm. And it just built my resilience and gave me a really thick skin. Mm. I was 22 years old, working in a blue-collar environment, working in warehouses and hiring pickpackers, forklift drivers and storemen. And a 22-year-old girl coming into a very male-dominated environment, where the age demographic was probably, 25 to 65. Was really quite daunting, and I really had to find my voice in that. I used to wear pink steel cap boots. I used to get right in there, and I really had to make my kind of authority known from a really young age, and that really gave me a voice and kind of taught me how to be heard, and what I kind of needed to do.
It's really good, and you can kind of see the range in which where you start and where you are. And obviously, a lot of people know my story, and it's very similar. Even though I started with my cousin in financial planning, I did some side jobs as well too. One of them was working at reject shop, packing shelves. Yep. And another one was washing dishes on a weekend to try and get some money. So we all start from all of these humble beginnings, and obviously getting into a career, which is one of the things I want to speak about today, and we might as well kick things off there, is around allied health, financial services, IT. I speak to all of these industries, and most of the industries are really, really struggling with a few things. One of them is people just not wanting to put in the effort.
No, because John. And you know what? Just back on what you said, humble beginnings and doing all those shitty jobs that no one wants to do. That's how we were raised. And, I feel like that's kind of being lost again. People are going to uni, leaving uni and wanting 130, 40K off the bat. They've done no work. No work on themselves too. They haven't done the hard yards to kind of appreciate where they're going or what they're doing, or they don't know much about themselves yet.
And it's interesting. I was at a birthday party on the weekend, and I was speaking to a guy who has a painting business, and he said my biggest problem is talent. Like all of the tradies are they're coming out and they're going, I want to be a Sparky because it's the quickest way to earn a lot of money.
Yeah.
But they also don't want to they don't want to work hard because painting's too hard. I speak to my concreter mates, I speak to my bricky mates.
Yeah.
Same scenario. Financial services, we're having the same thing. People are saying, okay, we want to get into financial services, but we want to start off on 6 figures. Once again, you haven't even swept the floors yet. Now, I want to kind of break this down and then kind of how employees and employers are kind of, and you're seeing this.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing about it is, yes, we want people to increase their income to get to their financial goals.
Of course.
However, I think a lot of the people entering the workplace, and I'll even say people that are established in the workplace, have unrealistic expectations about maybe where they can get in 12 months. And when I say something very commonly, I say, most people overestimate what they can achieve in 1 year, but underachieve what they can achieve in 10 years. And it's that consistency and that resilience of where you get to in 10 years.
Absolutely.
Now, so when I'm maybe speaking to a 20-year-old and you come out, you may have started your uni, you're looking for your next job, say at 21.
Yep.
I would argue not going for income straight away. I'd be trying to go for the right mentor, the right people who I'm going to learn the most from, because I would say that from an employer's perspective, when I'm looking to hire someone, I'm looking at them well-rounded. I'm looking at their soft skills. I'm looking at not just what they've learned academically, but have they had the opportunity to work with a good mentor in the past? Where are they getting this knowledge from?
Absolutely.
And then they're going to be able to advance very, very quickly. Now, I'm coming from a position where I have 2 people inside my business that are 24 years of age or were 24 when they became owners in a business. So it's not like I'm saying, and you can just imagine that. That's a big, big thing for them to be. But they had 6 years of proper training. I'm talking about Daniel's son and Mr. Miyagi, wax on, wax on. They were willing to do the work and therefore rewarded. Are you seeing the same thing?
Willingness. It's such a big part. And yes, I am seeing that. And I think that what a lot of people are doing is, obviously we're living in a world at the moment where, the cost of living, and there's a lot of pressures, a lot more pressures, but there's been pressures down every generation to some extent. I think what's really important, and when I'm interviewing people, I want to know what their passions are. Why are you here, and where and how have you got here? What's gone on in your life? You could do all the hard skills. You can do all of that stuff, but if you've come from a situation in your life that you've had to kind of work your way up, you've left school early, you've got the crappy end of the parent stick, you haven't been well supported in your life, but you're still doing amazing things in your life. I think that speaks in volumes. And I think it's about, again, learning about the person's passion. They need to know about their passions as well, because, for example, I recruit in the allied health space. If you're not a compassionate, empathetic person that generally wants to help someone and you are just there for the money, that's not sustainable. And it's about having those conversations as an employer with someone that's applying for a job or wanting to get into a new field. Why are you here? Why is this field where you want to be? Are you here for the right reasons?
And how many people do you know that are chasing the money and then are miserable in their work?
Oh, I'd say 50% of the people I know, John, if not more.
And so they're earning good money, but they're miserable because they haven't aligned their fulfillment with their money.
And I'll be straight out with you. So before I started my own business, I was working for an amazing tech company. I was recruiting within tech. I was making $150,000, $160,000 a year, but I was miserable because my whole life, I feel like my purpose has been to help people. And although I was helping people, recruiting, when I'm recruiting someone, I'm helping people in their career journey. Your career is such a big part of your life, but there was still something missing. And health is something that I was always really passionate about, and then I became a mother. And, these allied health services are services I needed to use for my own son. And I just found myself in a position where I could really, really make a difference to not just the person looking for a job, to everyone that person was helping. So, you know, that's really important.
It is really important because when you look at my own journey, it was a 14-year-old that was obsessed with helping people.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not talking about a person that just loved their job. I was obsessed. And so when people say to me, John, why have you got to where you got to? You know, you've known my own story. It's I literally live and breathe this stuff. And so, you know, for people out there, I would probably do this even if I didn't get paid.
Yep. And I'm exactly the same. Exactly the same.
So when you put yourself in a category where you honestly feel that you're transforming people's lives or changing them or impactfully doing it, what happens is the impact happens, then the money comes because you're now competing against people who don't have that level of obsession.
And that's what it is. It's obsession. It doesn't feel like work. And this is what I say, especially to 3rd and 4th year students that I'm speaking to. It's all you think. If it's all you think about, if it's all you want to do, if you can't imagine yourself doing anything else, you're exactly where you need to be. You're exactly where you need to be. And there's nothing kind of...
And so what happens to the person that you find that maybe you're having a talking to and they're like, listen, I really want to advance my career. I want to earn more money.
Yep.
But I haven't found my purpose. I don't know what I want to do. I've just fell in this.
And they're probably going to be good at it too, you know what I mean?
So I'm in IT, for example.
Yeah.
I'm earning good money,
Yep.
But I hate my job.
Yep. So my recommendation in a situation like that, I always just say, give it a go. Just give it a go. And then, you know, it depends where you're at in your life as well. When you're younger, you can give it a go. I'm not saying you can't when you're older, but at that point you might have more responsibilities. You might have kids to, you know, you have a family, kids, mortgages, all these commitments where you can't kind of really dabble in something. But what I'm finding a lot these days is some people will come to me and they'll be working on a salary, you know, in one particular organization, and they'll ring me and they'll be like, you know, Nat, I don't really want this like exact conversation that we're having. I don't really want to do this anymore. You know, I'm looking at other avenues. Well, you know, what a lot of people are doing now is sometimes reducing to, say, a part-time salary where they actually are. And then looking at another industry and contracting, learning, working casually in another field just to get a bit of a taste. You know, like you need to put yourself out there. If you're not happy, you are the only one that can make the choice to make the change. And there's always a way. This is what I say to people. If you're that miserable, there's always a way. And, you know, if you are that miserable in your job, leave.
Yeah.
Like you can leave. You can leave. You need to have some sort of exit strategy. But, you know, there's a lot you can do.
It's interesting. You always talk about change, and I think as I've got older, I've realised that we like habit.
We do.
And we hate change. And that gets worse as time goes by. And it's around being comfortable by feeling uncomfortable where you actually succeed. So if you're starting to feel comfortable,
you've got to move.
You've got to move. You've got to move up. You've got to grow. You've got to give yourself that. Because if you're not growing, you're dying.
Well, John, when I accidentally started my business. I don't know if I told you this. So just really.
We're both the same.
Complete. Like I had been around, you know, in my life, you know, I had told myself I couldn't do it. I wasn't capable of running my own business. And, you know, a little bit about my story. I was in quite a dark place for a few years, you know, and I really fed myself all this crap. And I didn't have good people around me at the time, and they fed me all this crap too. So then I started working for that tech company, and a girlfriend of mine rang me and she said, we've opened up an allied health clinic, but we don't know how to recruit. I'm like, oh, I'll help you. Had some contacts overseas. Was just after COVID kind of pandemic was done and all the rest. And I started recruiting for her, and through advertising for her, other businesses saw what I was doing, and within 3 months it blew up. So I was working full-time. I had to reduce part-time, and then the business took off until one day I was sitting in a fetal position in my wardrobe because I couldn't look after the kids and do both. And I'm like, you have to make a change now. And that's kind of how it happened. And I haven't looked back since. 45 clients across Australia and going strong.
Love it. I love it. I love your journey. It's been a really, really good one to observe. It's been quite unique, I'll say, but but it's been good.
No,
going one step back around employers.
Yeah.
So I know for me as an employer, when I'm looking at bringing on people, and you met one of them today, which is Jaylan. She's just starting university. She's just finished year 12.
Yep.
And I'm giving her a chance. But why am I giving her a chance, and why did I go with her over people with experience even?
Did you see parts of you in her?
Interestingly, there was, but the reason why was actually we were at a wedding and I met her at the wedding.
Yeah.
And at the meantime, just so you know, we had like 70 applications for this job. Okay. So just to put it in perspective, not to kind of boast, but just why did she succeed over other people? And she was like an open book, and she still is. I want to learn. I want to make sure that I literally kind of just be the best in my job. I will take the time. I will just literally download everything I need to learn to be the best version of myself. I feel like a lot of people don't come with that attitude. Like I would probably say that out of those 70 applications, it was like, what are you going to do for me, not what I'm going to do for you, first and foremost. So there's this whole kind of employers, I think, are looking at it now going, no, I think the ball's in our court as an employer, not the opposite way at the moment, I feel. Because there's so many people that actually are looking for work. I feel. And you might tell me different. Not that businesses should take that for granted. However, businesses, and a lot of my mates who own businesses as well, are now looking towards, okay, well, with the rise of things like AI, technology, all of those things, how many people are having the right EQ attributes, soft skills? How much of them are presenting the eagerness to want to learn themselves, be the better version? I couldn't care if you've got the best scores on your university degree. And I think this is a trend that's been happening, but it's continuing to happen even more, where the fact that I'm looking more at the person's values and what they're doing outside of work rather than what they've done inside of work as the most important thing.
It is the most important thing. You're right. And I'm going to say it, like, I think it's got a lot to do with people's upbringing. It's how what they've been shown, you know, and they come from, I probably shouldn't generalize, but I find people that generally come from a blue collar working environment, they work hard. They work hard and they want to learn and they want to be better. A lot of people have seen their parents struggle, immigrants to this country. They want to be better, John. You know what I mean? But you're right. There's not a lot of people that have the willingness. I feel like it might be a generational thing where this day and age, anything you want, you can press a button and get it straight away. No one has to work for anything. Everyone wants to become an influencer or, you know, things are easier, but it's not like that in every industry. And where employers are falling short sometimes, and I'm glad this doesn't sound like it's happening to you, and I don't know if that's like just because of the industry you're in, but I know in my industry, people are hiring out of desperation because they so desperately need a job done. They're just hiring anybody.
So I think that's coming because the work demand's there, and they're looking to fill that. Which I think that there's an employer side of things which they also need to look at is how can you be an approachable employer? So,
absolutely.
Because when you talk about employees and getting a job, I think people understanding that the employer's looking for these attributes.
Of course.
So when I'm with my sons, even at this very young age, I'm more focused on their ability to kind of talk, connect, communicate, these soft skills where they can
build relationships.
So where important. I think that we've got a few things happening. We've got social media, which is giving an unrealistic expectation on that. We've got a generation who is scared to pick up the phone and actually
talk. They just want to text and email. Don't even get me started. Sorry.
And then you've also got things like being scared to have a constructive conversation. So conflict management.
Absolutely.
So those things are the things that I'm looking for. When I speak to nearly every industry professionals anyway, they're looking for the same thing. Then we've got this other layer, which is actually getting the work done. Now, there was I won't go into it, but essentially there's been times where I've had people that just want to work the 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Start at 9, finish at 5, because They want this perfect work-life balance. Now, I would probably argue, and I am very kind of unique that I haven't had a lot of exposure to a lot of other businesses myself.
Yep.
However, I have never worked 9 to 5. Like start at night. Okay. And for all the people that I have seen that are successful, they are not 9 to 5 people. Now, it does not mean that they work themselves to the point of burnout. But there's been this kind of push in the last 10 years, I'd say, even 15 years, is around perfect work-life balance, ice baths in the morning, perfect regime, 9 o'clock start, finish at 5, go do your meditation, this perfect... Now...
When you've worked in your job for 20 years, then yes.
Yeah, okay, so you need to start where you need to start.
You need to start where you need to start. You need to do the hard yards. To anyone young out there starting in a new career... You need to prove yourself. You need to prove yourself. You need to work hard. You need to show up early, stay back late, because in 5 years, you won't need to do that. But it's not only to prove to your employer, it's to learn. It's to teach you about yourself, what you're made of, what's inside you, and sometimes, you might have a day where you can finish a bit early. I used to be too scared to ask my bosses to leave early. I just used to stay till people started to go, and then, if I was done, I would go. But there is no, I think in the beginning, a perfect 9 to 5 world, it just, you're not going to get anything out of it.
And just to put it in perspective, I think they say it's 10,000 hours, 10,000.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous number for you to master your craft. Regardless of if it's 1,000, 2,000, let's just go with 1,000 to make it easy to get to level 1.
Yes.
Think about how, if I want to get to that level 1, which means that if I can be more valuable in my profession, I am going to be paid more.
Absolutely you will.
So don't look at it as the minimal amount of hours. I'd be looking at it like you have to get your driver's license and do as many hours. I want to smash these hours.
But if you don't do that, John, you're setting yourself up to fail as well, and people need to, there's a lot to learn, and some people, I guess, find things a lot easier than others and vice versa. But if you're hell-bent on the industry that you're in, whatever it may be, you need to put in the work at the start. It's as simple as that. There's no black, it's pretty black and white.
So from an employee perspective, I think we're both of agreements. You got to work your butt off.
Absolutely.
Okay. No one's
giving you anything. Well, not from me anyway. No one's getting any handouts here.
And
my poor son.
and working hard hasn't hurt anyone.
No.
You know what I mean? I think work hard.
No.
Invest in yourself, which is a big one where I'm talking about not just the degrees. Get right mentors, get the right skill sets, focus especially on your ability to communicate, your ability to socialize, your ability to connect. Because even when we talk about children, I heard this really good lately, when you pass away, you don't pass your money, you pass your phone book.
Yeah.
Okay, so your connections and obviously while you're living, pass your knowledge. Which Nat was getting to.
Yeah.
So when I talk about that, your wealth is in who you know, and everyone's heard this before, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Absolutely.
Okay? So focus on those things, but also as well to find what you love and what you're obsessed about. I say to people, you got to lean in to your career, not lean out of it. Okay. And there's going to be years that you're going to have to fully lean into it.
And you might leave it for a little bit too. I had to. And I think that's something worth touching on as well, John, career gaps, whether it be for maternity leave, you go have your family, or things happen to us in life.
Correct.
We go through really hard times and we have to take a step back from what we're doing for mental health or for whatever reason it might be, and how to kind of come back from that and building our confidence back up and believing in ourselves, and getting involved in programs and talking to people within your industry that can support you and help you through that stuff. I feel like sometimes that can be really hard, you got to work hard, you got to do this, you got to do that. But as someone that's experienced, having a break from their career, and what I love the most, sometimes you need to do it. Sometimes you need to go try something else to really appreciate what you're doing.
And I think what has worked for me, and I've never had a long stint of a break. I've always gone hard. But I've always gone hard, break, mini break. So I learned this a few years ago was around scheduling in like breaks. So what will happen is you'll go hard for a week, slow for a day. Hard for a month, slow for a week. Okay. And so those breaks that you're having and incrementally doing it creates the consistency for you to continue to build and build and build and build.
Yep.
So you're going to have events where, like you said, you're going to have forced breaks. Mm-hmm. What you don't want to have is burnout.
No.
Yeah, because that's when you,
different.
Yeah, correct. Because when you're having burnout, then you have resentment, which may be you just in a dark place.
Yeah.
So do focus, and I'm coming from a place where I encourage well-being for all of my staff.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yep.
So very much having a really good balance of regards to taking care of your mind, your body, your soul, and how you're doing it. All of it comes into it. However, I just think, and I just can't help but say, and this would be the advice I give my children who I love the most, and I'm giving to everyone today, like, it's actually easy to earn money in 2025 if you're just willing to do what other people aren't willing to do. Now, that is the same thing I said in 2015, 2005. Yep. It's the same thing that was taught to me beyond that.
Yep.
So if you're willing to do what other people aren't willing to do, if they're willing to be lazy, not put in the extra hour, they're then losing, say, 5 hours a week, compound that over years. So get me where I'm going with you. All right. So that's employees. We get the rhythm in regards to that, okay? But also you need to be realistic about also the industry you're in. What I mean by that is I was speaking to a client earlier this week, I think yesterday actually. She works in IT. She's earning about $500K.
Yep.
She wants to move out of IT and move into a yoga business.
Okay.
That's cool. Yoga's her passion. That's what she wants to do.
Yep.
We're doing the strategy where she's going to be working part-time in IT, transitioning over to yoga, exactly what I was talking about. But realistically, the conversation was what you're earning in IT is going to be very rare for you to earn in your yoga business. This is a lifestyle choice, not a money choice. And that is okay. There's plenty of choices we make in life that are lifestyle, not money choices. Exactly. And I'm an advocate for these. Yeah? Because that's her purpose. That's the one where I've said to her, in 20 years' time, looking back at your life, would you have been loving it being the next 20 years in IT, or would you have tried that yoga business? So we just need to be realistic going into that yoga business. The financial reward is not going to be like that. So what's her strategy? What's the game plan to financially support herself to make that transition and then create realistic expectations? Like one of the ones we've spoken about is, okay, cool. I don't care where you earn your income from, miss. But you need to fund your lifestyle X amount of dollars. She knows in her business, she knows in her personal life, I don't care where that comes from. She knows the dollar value that she needs to earn to fund her lifestyle.
Of course.
So I'm just raising this because people need to understand that industries do have incomes. They do have income ranges.
Yeah, they do.
And the only way to get out of that is start a business. Yeah,
that's it. And that's what I could never have reached where I know in my mind I wanted to be financially if I had continued working for someone else, you know. And that was I was just ready to take the risk. Well, the universe, whatever it was, like just presented an opportunity and I ran with it. But I could have said no, but I didn't because I knew what was waiting for me around the corner.
And it's not to say that everyone should start a business.
No, but it's not for everyone either.
There's a risk-reward trade-off here.
Absolutely. And I was, seriously, if I had this conversation with you 6-7 years ago, it would have been very, very different, you know.
But it's taken you in your life experience to get there.
Absolutely.
And it's taken me in my life experience to get there. When I had spinal surgery back in 2019, that game changed me. If you see my business from where it was then to where it is now, there was a clear traumatic event that shifted my brain to think a certain way. And this is going to happen. And this is not going to be I hope it's not, but it won't be the last traumatic event we'll have. There'll be another one that'll shift you in a different way.
Life will throw.
One thing I wanted to talk about before I get into the business side of things is around both from a business and both from an employee, we've been speaking about this, was around personal brand.
Yes.
So one of the biggest things when I'm going through all of those applicants is I'm jumping on their LinkedIn. I'm jumping on their Instagram pages. I'm jumping on whatever social media I can get access to. I am trying to see what type of person they are. So if I'm doing that and I know all my friends are doing that, and if you're not doing that as an employer, you're not doing yourself justice.
No, not at all.
How much from an employee perspective do they need to be mindful of that?
Very, very mindful. It should be at the forefront. If you're applying for work, even if you're not applying for work, and I just spoke about this on my own podcast last month, your digital footprint is just, it's so important, John. It's so important. Like, everyone does things in their personal life, you know what I mean? But especially, I mean, Facebook, Instagram, you know, if you don't want people looking at them, put them on private. Do you know what I mean? But your LinkedIn, I'm always on LinkedIn. I run my whole business through LinkedIn. If someone doesn't have a LinkedIn presence, I question it. I'm like, what's going on here? You know, you need to make sure it's up to date. Make sure everything that you have achieved is on there and portrayed in a good light. But yeah, it's so important. I have this conversation with the kids, you know, it's a reflection of you. You just need to be so careful with what's going on social media.
Yeah, and I would say that, like, I would like to encourage everyone to be authentic. Yeah, don't fake who you are. Because on the flip side is people can portray themselves to be this beautiful roses person.
Yep.
But they're acting. So when you get into that role, you're not that person and you're now pretending. So use your personal brand to bring out the authenticity of who you are. And be aware that employers are looking.
Always looking.
All right. And I would say that coupled with the interview process and understanding how you are outside is what makes the application 90% of the application.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to an employer, now obviously we're very fortunate in our position where we've got a lot of people that want to work for Thriving Wealth, which I'm absolutely blessed on. But I do think that a big part of that is people kind of know the organisation that you're working with before you know who you're working with. So it's like our personal brand.
Yep.
So like you've come here, you've met some of the staff, you've obviously been following us on social media, and it probably wasn't a differential. You didn't come in here shocked to go, it was more like these are the same people I've been communicating with.
I feel like I knew I knew your whole team.
Correct. So like that level of authentic approach, that ability for people to understand who they're working with. Yes, it is very important for clients who want to work with us, but it's also around like, we don't need to fake it.
No.
It's just natural, but we're also out there regularly. So it's communicating. Because if I'm wanting to work for someone, it's a daunting process.
Yep.
It's, am I moving from where I am to someone? What are they really like?
Yep.
They've only got this Seek ad or they've only got whatever.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
We're in a day and age where we can teach people about our businesses, you know. We're so fortunate.
So how many businesses do that? How many businesses do you have to say like, come on guys?
Like get on social media and do it properly? I feel like with my clients are generally pretty good at it. A lot of people will start getting really into it, but it's about the consistency.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? A lot of businesses don't do it at all, which is a bit, they might feel that they don't need to or they might not be comfortable with it. But I mean, if you're looking at, you know, expanding your brand and you want to reach more people, it's the best way to do it. And if you're not comfortable doing it yourself, you know, you hire a specialist. Me, not good at it, not good at lots of things. That is like marketing really isn't my forte, but I've got a great team that does it, you know. And I think that's the big thing for us as employers too. Our job isn't to be good at everything. It's about being able to identify people within our team that are good at those things, you know. And I think for you, John, especially, like what I notice is like you have such a great energy, you know, about you, and you're so passionate about what you do. Like you can see it, and you're always going to attract the right people to your business.
And I think that just like obviously comes with what we were talking about before, you know, being obsessed with it and actually loving what you do. So that loving what you do, obsessed with it, that natural kind of just goes into then being an employee. But from an employee perspective, I was also the same.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that and if you think about that, to then be natural in that habitat, we were talking about what we were talking about before, which is around, well, what skills do we want to learn very early on?
Yep.
that ability to connect. You know, my wife would say to me, you know, you go into a room and you know everyone by 15 minutes from
Yeah, that's it.
Because I can't help myself. Yeah, I just want to connect with people. I want to speak to people.
It's your superpower.
That's just who I am.
It's just who you are.
But
Absolutely.
if you actually see that, that was something that was actually harnessed at a very young age.
It's
and
there.
developed over time. And so I see that being lost. And this is why I wanted to kind of go into it. I know employers are looking at it. I know that people want to elevate their incomes, and rightly so. Like, I will tell you, financially speaking, there's kind of 4 levers we pull on to help people achieve their goals. Okay. Yep. So first one is earn more.
I'm learning so much today.
Okay.
Yep.
First one is earn more.
Yeah.
Second one is then spend less.
Yep.
Third one is take on more risk.
Yep.
Which also leads on to the fourth one, which is then borrow money. Okay. Problem is people stuff up the order. So what they'll do is
spend more.
Well, let's just But let's just say, like, first one they'll do is they'll go to spend less.
Yeah.
Now, you can only spend down to a certain amount before you start feeling miserable. It's like going on a strict diet.
Yeah.
How long are you going to stick with it? All right. So that's number 1. 2, which is happening today with debt-fueled lifestyles, is around, okay, well, I can't earn what I need to earn, or I'm not willing to do what I need to do to earn more, therefore I'm going to borrow money. I'm going to kick the can down the road.
Yep.
I want that new car, borrow.
Yep.
I want that, borrow. So they're going to number 4, where actually people need to be focusing on number 1. And see, number 1, what we spoke about, if you take business, it's uncapped, it's unlimited. Yeah. If you take employees, well, I was speaking to a couple last week about this. They needed about an extra $20,000 a year, and they were focused so much on number 2, which is spend less, spend less, spend less, spend less. I said, well, there's 2 of you. What would you need to do to earn $10,000 more each?
Yep.
I don't know. Okay, first thing I want you to do is go back to your employer and just ask them, for you to pay me $10,000 more,
what do you need me to do?
What do you need me to do?
Yeah.
It was like a light bulb went off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and please, that's what I was doing when I was young. Like, I don't know if it was naturally in me, but I'm like, okay, well, I want this. Here's the other party who's paying me. How do I negotiate?
How do we do this? Absolutely, I was the same.
Okay, so if you focus on earning more, in most cases, what's the employer going to say? This is what this podcast is about.
Yeah.
What's the employer going to say to you? The employer's going to be like, okay, well, what skills can you bring to the table? What values can we have? Now, when you're looking at skills, this is where I'm focusing a lot into. Now there's another issue that's coming in with it, which is technology and AI. And this is why I'm saying about the whole IQ thing. Like, these AI stuff is becoming like supercomputers where literally I live and breathe in ChatGPT.
Yeah, oh, right. You and me both.
All right, but most people do now. Most people live and breathe in ChatGPT.
Yeah.
My 8-year-old is using ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Okay. So realistically, we're not going to be able to be smarter than AI.
No.
We've got to learn to work side by side with AI. But what can we do that AI can't do? Can't connect with people.
No.
Can't have the emotional intelligence. Yeah. All of these attributes that have actually been around and actually been the most important. Like, people hate the word sales. Sales makes the world go round.
Yes.
So if you're scared of the word sales, if you like hate the word, you need to break through that.
Yeah.
You need to sell yourself. I remember my dad saying to me very early on, he's like, if you want to get somewhere in life, you've got to sell yourself. Not in this weird way.
No.
Like, as in, you need to sell yourself to get to the next position.
If you don't advocate for yourself, John, who's going to advocate for you? This is what I say to people. You need to believe, and not that I say, you know, the phrase fake it till you make it, but even if you're struggling to believe, you kind of just got to, you do have to fake it a bit till you actually believe it. Yes. I'm not saying a lie about who you are.
You got to get the confidence in yourself
to
be able to then execute.
You have to, because you will stay the same.
Correct.
You will not move in your, not only in your career, but in your life. You will stay stagnant and you will base your decisions on feelings, not facts, and you will believe everyone around you that's put you in a pigeon. If, you know, I don't know, you know, everyone's situations are different. Family, husband, wife, relationship, cousin, friend. Oh, no, you can't do that. You can't.
Let alone the own thoughts that go in your head.
Exactly. We all do it. I still do it sometimes. Sometimes I sit there and I'm like, you know, I had a big meeting with a new client yesterday and I was shitting myself. Look, I was like, Nat, you got this. Like, you can do this, and it happens to the best of us.
I still get this when Bridget gives me my youngest. He goes, got to take care of it.
I don't know. No, I get it. It's
and see that level of doubt in yourself never goes away.
Nah.
It's about embracing it.
Yeah. It's like recognizing that it's there and like talking to it a bit. Like, I know you're there. Mm-hmm. We're not doing this today. And it's the best feeling, like when you push through it. I never had trouble asking for what I thought I was worth as an employee. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I guess I was I don't know. I think, my dad was a big part of that. He was very similar, I think, to what your dad said to you. Maybe it's Maltese thing. I don't know. But
maybe.
But how funny, he never did that for himself, but he always wanted it for us, for me and my sisters.
But that also comes into, and for my psychologist friends, they'll jump into this one. But the reality is, no, but this is what happens. This is psychology around that. You've got two things. So if you're in a situation where you're in a humble home, okay, they've got two things that they can teach you. They can either go, this is the ceiling, which I've achieved. Mm-hmm. I want you to stay within the ceiling.
Yep.
So don't take that risk. You'll hear them say, don't get that job. No, don't do that. Like my mum, John, go work for a bank for the rest of your life.
My mum was the same.
Okay. So that's the ceiling. They love you.
But they just don't want you to
Correct. All right. Correct. They don't want you to fail. Whereas, let's say your father's like, this is what I got to the ladder.
Yep.
I know the ladder's that big.
Yep.
I was never given the opportunity. Hopefully, I've got you to here. You can continue to go.
You can keep going. Absolutely,
right.
Yeah.
So we also need to see that those thoughts happen in our own minds.
Yeah.
Okay. So like when I'm doing people's financial plans, I did one yesterday. Lady was blown away. She's like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. I can't believe where we're going to be in 20 years from now.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you don't know where you're going to be. Like, you don't have the tools to be able to see where you're going to go. But now I show you where you're going to go. How excited are you? Oh, my goodness. Yeah. So let me tell everyone this. Where you think you're going to be in 10 years from now, if you put all the effort and the things we talked about today, you're most likely going to far exceed where you're going to be. Did I think, humbly speaking, I was going to be the advisor of the year 2024 when I set out to achieve when I was 14 years old?
Probably not.
No, that was 20 years to get to that, but I never thought it was even possible. There's 15,000 advisors in the country and I'm just in a little... No. So you over-exceed likely, but it's got to do with the commitment, the resilience, the
discipline,
skills,
the congruency, showing up, doing what you say you're going to do.
Correct. And if we look at sports as this, you look at like Cristiano Ronaldo, which I'm sure your son loves, but if you look about like the story around him, he would be there like 3 hours before everyone else.
That's it.
He's training beyond. So when we were talking about like, did he do the minimum? No. Everything we're talking about today, you can see this in all industries. Okay? And it's what is the difference between people succeeding and not succeeding.
Absolutely.
And if you were in the situation where you think someone's going to come in and just help you, you know and I know.
No fairy godmother's coming to save you, man. Sorry.
The only one is just the only one is yourself.
You are the only one. There will be people on the way that can guide you and help you, and you've said the word willingness so many times in the last 40 minutes or however long it's been. Like, it's the willingness. The willingness to want for yourself. You need to want it. You need to believe you're worth it. Doesn't matter what you're doing, where you're going, if it's in whatever industry, you just gotta keep going and you gotta do the hard work. Simple as that.
Well, I think that's enough about the willingness. I think you got the point. But the reality is that everything we've given you today hopefully has been really, really insightful. Nat, thank you very much for coming on.
My pleasure.
It's been really, really good to get an insight about what's happening even in allied health, as it is happening in financial services, as we're hearing in a lot of other industries as well. And I think this is what we've talked about both for businesses and employees. These have been really, really good kind of stepping stones for hopefully people to make those changes to themselves or invest in themselves to really grow and get to where they need to get to. So, Nat, thank you.
Pleasure, John.
And before I wrap things up, I know you've started your own podcast.
Yeah,
what is it?
We have started a podcast, myself and my colleague Felicia, and it's called Hot and Hired. John called it Hot and Messy. But That's not what it's called. It's called Hot and Hired. There's one episode being released. Next month will be released next month. And it is everything women, careers, life experiences, learnt behaviours, and how we pull that into our day-to-day work life and how it kind of shapes us. We've got a very special guest, Susie Koutafidis, on our next podcast episode. So tune in and I'm sure something will be tagged somewhere.
There you go. Awesome. So if you're interested in that, jump on. But Nat, thank you again for jumping
Pleasure, John. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.